national figure.
Oh, who did they call?
Who shall remain nameless, to help with the effort here if he's really serious.
And to any national political figure who has decided to get involved in the plight of East Palestine, I have a simple message, which is I need your help, because if you're serious about this, there is more that we could do to prevent more communities from going through this.
Well, tell us, Peabody, what can Trump do for you?
Yeah.
You mentioned a national political figure who's decided to get involved. It sounds like you're talking about Trump, and then you said, I need your help. How can he help?
Well, one thing he could do is express support for reversing the deregulation that happened on his watch. I heard him say he had nothing to do with it, even though it was in his administration. So if he had nothing to do with it, and they did it in his administration against his will, maybe he could come out and say that he supports us moving in a different direction. We're not afraid to own our policies when it comes to raising the bar on regulation. And I've got to think that him indicating that this is something that everybody, no matter how much you disagree on politics and presidential campaigns, can get behind. Higher fines, tougher regulations on safety, Congress untying our hands on braking rules, all the other things that go with that, that'd be a nice thing for him to do.
Yeah. You heard on this show yesterday that that's what Peabody would say, more regulations, and we have to attack corporate greed. So more regulations, expand the government, attack corporate greed, shrink the private sector. They're the problem. We're the solution. You've seen this before. And all it takes is for nobody to actually know what Peabody is talking about, to the extent he knows what he's talking about, to say, oh, well, yeah, that sounds right. No, it doesn't, actually. If you understand what he's referencing and you get a little bit of the backstory, but that's why you listen to this show. We mentioned it yesterday, but repeating, Peabody is citing an Obama-era reg that mandated electronically controlled pneumatic braking technology on some trains carrying flammable liquids such as oil. These ECP brakes, electronically controlled pneumatic braking, ECP brakes, that's what he was referring to when he said braking technology, apply pressure throughout the trains instantaneously, unlike conventional brakes in which each car receives a signal sequentially through an air pipe. The costly rule provided marginal safety benefits, but it would have advanced the left's anti-fossil fuel agenda. First, block pipelines, then make it prohibitively expensive to move oil by rail. That was the real play by the left here. So Congress instructed the DOT to reevaluate its analysis, cost-benefit, and for the GAO to do an assessment. The GAO identified myriad problems with the government's cost-benefit analysis. And so the Trump administration rescinded the rule in 2018. That's what Peabody was referring to. There's no evidence ECP brakes would have prevented the derailment. And the Obama rule wouldn't have applied to the Norfolk Southern train because, as we know, it wasn't classified as a high-hazard flammable unit train, which is a whole nother question about why it wasn't given that classification, but it wasn't. So even under the Obama-era rule that Peabody is referring to, it wouldn't have been applicable because this train didn't have that designation. So there's the rest of the story, if you'll excuse my Paul Harvey, that you won't get probably anywhere else because people will just sort of generically talk about this and allow Peabody to generically get away with misinformation, if you will.
And on The View yesterday, they just said, Trump did this. This train derailment is Trump's fault.
Well, this is what I'm talking about.
It's just
Peabody
stupid.
says,
They're not even reading.
it's a Trump. It was a safety reg that was rescinded in the Trump era, so he's to blame. And so it says, well, they're on watch now, so they're to blame. Let's get into the specifics so we know what quote unquote solutions are being proposed and how applicable they are. And what Peabody, like so many Pauls, are doing on both sides, are good at doing, is just to make sort of paeans to the god of government regulation, the god of government intervention, or the devil of corporate America, because they exist to make profits, they exist to make money, to finance the rapacious government that he's a part of.